Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, warshippers of all ages, welcome to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we'll be taking a first look down this new German destroyer branch that was recently announced by Wargaming, starting here with Tier VII's Z-31. Now, this is a very bizarro looking line, right? I can't quite wrap my brain around kind of the point and the goal here. But I do want to point out some things along the way that do stand out to me about these ships. On paper, that you kind of scratch your head and go, but then in execution, it might actually work out. So I'm not sure. I feel like these ships are going to undergo a lot of tweaks in testing. I feel like where they're at right now is not representative of where they need to be in order to be competitive, and we'll talk about that as we go through. So we're going to start here at Tier 7. This is where the line branches off. Now, my expectation is that the line, of course, splitting at Tier 6 from Tier 6 Ernst Gade. If you remember, Ernst Gade has the ability to equip 150mm guns. My expectation is that is where this branch will start. Once you unlock that gun upgrade for Ernst Gade, you'll be able to continue on down the tree, and it will lead you here to Z-31. Now, Z-31 does have a cousin kind of already in the game, a ship that's very, very similar, and that is Tier VII Premium German Destroyer, Z-39. But there's some really important differences that I'm going to highlight as I go. You're going to hear me talk about Z-39 a lot because I consider Z-39 to be one of the best German destroyers available in the game, tier for tier. She is a bully at Tier 7. She is a ton of fun to play, and you're going to see me compare Z-31 to Z-39 a lot because they're both in the same tier. We are going to talk about Leverek Moss as well, the other Tier 7 tech tree destroyer. So settle in. Let's have a look. All right, so starting off, as we do, hit points here, 19,400. Not quite good enough for best in tier. Again, we were talking about Z-39. She edges this out by a couple hundred hit points, but still, this is a chunky destroyer for Tier 7. One of the things that I like about Z-39, one of the qualities that Z-31 here in the tech tree will retain, is the ability to simply bully other destroyers in gunfights because you have so much more HP than they do. There's a lot of destroyers in this tier that top out at 13, 14,000 hit points. When you have 5,000 or 6,000 more hit points than another destroyer in a gunfight, like, that is huge, and it gives you the ability to make bolder decisions, let's say, than you might otherwise, and that actually is nice. It allows you to be aggressive in certain situations. So this hit point pool is noteworthy. Keep that in mind. Ordinarily, I wouldn't talk about the armor layout of a destroyer. Almost every destroyer in the game is covered in 19mm of armor. There are a handful that aren't. It turns out Z-31 here is one of the handful that isn't. And let's talk about why this is important. The extremities, 16mm, okay, fine, nothing to get right about here. But her main kind of section of the ship here, you see 25mm plating. Most destroyers are 19mm plating in this section, okay? What does this mean? It means that there are actually destroyers that she will go up against whose HE shells will struggle to penetrate this armor. They will actually shatter. You will actually get you'll pen the bow or the stern, but let's say you're fighting. You got those little 120mm pop guns you find on some of the British destroyers, right? Let's go look at a Jervis. Let's say Jervis can't pen this. Jervis can't pen this with HE and not without taking the IFHE skill. And even then, would that do it? Let's see. Jervis would be 120 divided by 6 would be 20 mils, and then you're going to add what, 25%? Yeah, that would do it. That would get you there, wouldn't it? No, it wouldn't. Wouldn't get you there. So yeah, so like this is an advantage, right? This is something else that's going to allow you to bully, again, select destroyers. One of the things that I talked about this in a recent video playing Z-52, German destroyers are a little more advanced, right? They require you to have a better mechanical understanding of World of Warships, when to fire AP, when to fire HE, and this is another example of that. This line that's coming is going to require a little bit more technical knowledge to kind of get the most out of, in the sense of you're going to have to understand that there are destroyer engagements that you can force and do really well in because you have this little bit of extra armor. It doesn't seem like amazing, but in reality, it's actually noteworthy. Like, American destroyers can't pin this, for example, right? They'll stop at 21 mils. They'll have to take IFHE. And most destroyers with 5-inch guns don't take IFHE. So this is noteworthy. Again, if you find yourself in a gunfight with one of these things and you've got one of those little pop gun destroyers, a 4 or 5 inch armed gun destroyer, aim for the bow, aim for the stern, try and land shells in those areas. If with the HE, you will pen them. Otherwise, swap to the AP. AP will pen this. Sure. Like, why not, right? So, anyways, that little bit of armor, noteworthy. Concealment and maneuverability. These are critical values for a destroyer. Let's talk about maneuverability. 36 knots, 670 meters on the turning circle, 4.2 seconds on the rudder shift. This is essentially the same as Z-39. Like, the rudder shift is a little faster, but if you've driven a Z-39, this ship handles the same. It's basically the same hull, the same overall length, more or less the same maneuverability, the same handling characteristics. And honestly, that's a good thing. Like, I like driving Z-39. The 600, the turning circle is a little largish for a destroyer. It is straight up worst in tier. However, 670, it's not that bad, right? You can make this work. You learn to toggle your speed when you need to make tight turns and dodge torpedoes, for example, those kinds of things. Okay. Concealment. This is noteworthy. She starts with a base detection here. It's 7.2 even, which means a full stealth rig at tier 7. You can get her down to right at 6.3. That's not as bad as you might think, and this puts her way ahead of the other German tech tier destroyer, Leberecht Maas, which is like a 6.7 or a 6.8 for full stealth rig, which is just god-awful, horrid. This is 6.3. This is at least competitive in the tier. You'll find some ships less, you'll find some ships more, and you're kind of right in the middle. 6.3 is not too shabby. So that's nice. It means that there are destroyers that you will be able to, not only do you have a health advantage, you actually have a spotting advantage, and that's really nice. Now, that's not as good as Z-39. Z-39 can do better than that. She gets all the way down to 6.1 because she gets the bonus of having that tier 8 upgrade slot, so she can take concealment systems modification. Z-31 here does not get that. Womp womp. But still, I mean, this is not too shabby, okay? 3.5 kilometer detection by air, not great. Not great. She's a little spottable from the air. That means there will be more planes that will be able to get that rocket strike off on you as soon as they spot you. If the carrier player's on the ball, he can push the button and probably get that drop off depending on the angle and all the rest of that stuff. So yeah, I mean, detection, very competitive. Main battery, just like Z-39, we've gone for the German 150mm 55 caliber guns. We've got 2 single mounts here at the stern, married to a single. Come on. Interface thing. Oh yeah, I gotta do this. There we go. There's my double mount all the way up at the bow. Okay, so you've got 4 of these barrels. These are not dual purpose barrels here. No, not yet. Okay, so these are only good for the surface. These are the same guns, the same shells, the same shell velocities as Z-39. What's really notable? Okay, same reload speed. So she has the exact same gun DPM as Z-39. Now a lot of people think Z-39 is not a great gunfighter, and you're not 100% wrong. However, what she really has of Z-39, and I have to point this out, look at that dispersion circle. 55 meters. This is literally half the dispersion ellipse of Z-39's main battery. Half. Z-39's dispersion ellipse is 104 meters. This one is 55. These guns are going to feel laser accurate in comparison. And that's really good. We're going to talk about why in a minute, but that's really, really nice. And again, that just kind of all plays into this ability to kind of bully other destroyers in certain situations. Okay, so yeah, the main battery is intriguing. I really I love Z-39's guns. I love Z-39. I love playing that ship. But this dispersion really, really intrigues me. I'm very curious to see how this plays out in practice. Main battery range 11.5 kilometers. It's a little less than Z-39, which tops out at 11.8, but it's pretty comparable. Torpedoes. I mean, it is a destroyer, right? We've got a couple of quad-mounted launchers here midships. This is typical of this particular type of destroyer. However, these torpedoes are not as good as the ones you find on Z-39 or even Leberecht Maas. These are capped out at 7 kilometers and a 90-second reload. So this is not a torpedo destroyer. Now, you saw earlier with her concealment, we can get this down to 6.3 or so. 7-kilometer torpedoes. She does have the ability to stealth torpedo. However, it's going to feel like playing a Jervis, right? A Tier 7 British destroyer Jervis, where you've got this narrow window. You have like a 6+ detection and a 7-kilometer torpedo range. You're going to have to really bust your ass to pull off good torpedo strikes or be looking for opportunities to flex them. They are a little on the slow side. You see there's 61 knots. When you marry that to the 1.3 torpedo detectability range you see there, that gives the opposing team about, I think it's 8.2 seconds. I ran the numbers here on my spreadsheet. Let me go look. It is 8.2 seconds, which is a little worse than Z-39 and Leberecht Maus, which both come in at 7.7. So they have a little more reaction time to these torpedoes, again, because they are a few knots slower. German torpedoes are not really known for how hard they hit, right? The flood chance is not bad. It's a little above average. So this is the kind of thing that if you find yourself, trying to stalk a battleship or prevent a push as they're pushing into you, try and stagger the torpedo launches, go for some floods, see what you can get. Last but not least, let's talk about her anti-aircraft defenses. Just like Z-39, she does not have a long-range aura. She does have a mid-range aura on the basis of these 37mm flat guns you see here mounted two forward of the bridge, and then she's got two here kind of back along the stern, along the midline. The rest is made up by the 20mm flat guns, and her overall AA is not very amazing. The nice thing is that you don't have to worry about toggling your AA on and off unless you just really want to. Her aerial detection and her AA range are the same number, so it's not something you have to manage very much. It is what it is. If you're spotted on the surface, your AA is going off, basically. If you're not spotted on the surface, you don't have to worry about your AA. They're out of the range, so no big deal. This is not a ship that's going to shoot down planes. It's just not a thing. Let's take a quick step back, a little over her consumables, and yeah, there's not much to see here. It's literally just damage control party and hydro. Now, this is the same hydro that you get on Leberecht Maus. This is 4-kilometer hydro. Unfortunately, this is not as good as what you get on Z-39. Z-39 does get better hydro. She gets the Tier 8 hydro, which is 5-kilometer range. So this is going to feel a little bad, but it is what it is. You do still get the German hydro. Overall, I will say this ship feels inferior to Z-39. The thing that intrigues me most is that gun dispersion. 55 meters for a dispersion ellipse feels really good, and I'm really interested to see how that plays out in practice. But the only two things that really stand out to me about this ship when you put her alongside Z-39 are that dispersion ellipse and this 25mm armor section. Basically, in every other way, Z-39 is better. Z-39 gets smoke. Z-39 gets engine boost. She gets longer range hydro. She gets longer range torpedoes. She gets better torpedoes. She gets more concealment because she gets upgrade slot 5. She can therefore bring her concealment down even lower. So, for a tech tree ship, yeah, but if you hand me a Z-31 and a Z-39, I'm gonna play the Z-39. That's just the way it is, right? So we'll see. So far though, I'm intrigued. I'm not sold on these ships, not just yet, certainly not here at Tier 7, but we'll see what happens as we go up the line. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that quick first look. Wash your hands, be safe out there, and I'll catch you next time.